People have a tendency to assume that what they see on the surface reflects the full reality of a person's life. They glance at someone laughing, succeeding, and moving through life with confidence and automatically believe that this person is truly happy. But appearances are often deceptive, and what may seem like joy, fulfillment, or contentment could be nothing more than a carefully crafted illusion. Humans are wired to present their best selves to the world, often concealing pain, insecurities, and internal struggles behind smiles and laughter. The truth is, happiness is not always what it appears to be, and the assumption that someone else has a perfect life is often based on limited observation. People wear masks for different reasons. Some wear them to fit into societal expectations, while others use them as a defense mechanism to shield their vulnerabilities. It is not uncommon for someone who is struggling internally to put on a bright, cheerful face, hoping that by doing so, they can keep their true emotions buried. This act of masking one's pain is something that has existed for centuries, embedded in human nature and reinforced by the world we live in. Society rewards strength, confidence, and success, so people naturally try to project those qualities, even when they do not feel them on the inside. The problem with assuming that someone else is happy based on their external appearance is that it creates a false perception of reality. When you see a person excelling in their career, enjoying a luxurious lifestyle, or surrounded by admiration, it is easy to believe that they have found the key to happiness. But what is often overlooked is the burden they might be carrying behind closed doors. Wealth, status, and social validation do not erase emotional pain, nor do they guarantee inner peace. Many individuals who seem to have everything still battle depression, anxiety, loneliness, and self-doubt. They may be deeply dissatisfied with their lives, constantly questioning their own worth or feeling trapped in a cycle of expectation. Social gatherings, work environments, and even casual interactions all provide people with opportunities to uphold their image of happiness. They smile when they are expected to smile, engage in conversations with enthusiasm, and make sure they appear to be enjoying life. But once they are alone, when the distractions fade, their true emotions come to the surface. The silence of an empty room, the late hours of the night, or the moments between social engagements are often when their hidden struggles become undeniable. There is also an element of social conditioning that plays into this illusion. People have been taught to hide their struggles because vulnerability is often perceived as weakness. No one wants to be the person who openly admits they are hurting, afraid, or uncertain. Instead, they choose to maintain an image that aligns with what society considers successful or admirable. This need to appear happy is so ingrained that people can become exceptionally skilled at concealing their real emotions, even from those closest to them. The illusion of happiness is further amplified by social media, where people meticulously curate the best aspects of their lives to share with the world. They post pictures of vacations, celebrations, achievements, and milestones, giving the impression that their life is perfect. But what these images fail to reveal is the stress, frustration, or sadness that exists beyond the camera lens. Social media is not a reflection of reality. It is a highlight reel, showcasing only the moments that people want others to see. Those looking in from the outside, unaware of the full story, may feel inadequate, believing that their own lives are less fulfilling in comparison. What makes this illusion even more deceptive is that those who appear the happiest often work the hardest to maintain that image. They fear judgment, rejection, or pity, so they go to great lengths to ensure that no one sees their pain. Some individuals who constantly entertain others with humor, lightheartedness, and optimism may, in fact, be using these behaviors as a coping mechanism. They distract from their own suffering by making others laugh, finding solace in the role of the entertainer rather than confronting their own struggles. Another aspect to consider is that happiness itself is not a permanent state. No one is happy all the time. Life is filled with ups and downs, and emotions fluctuate based on circumstances, experiences, and personal growth. A person may appear to be thriving one moment and struggling the next. To assume that someone else has found a consistent state of happiness is to ignore the natural complexities of human emotion. Even those who seem to have everything together go through periods of doubt, stress, and emotional turmoil. Many people who outwardly seem happy are also caught in the pursuit of more success, more wealth, more approval. The desire to achieve greater things can be both a source of motivation and a cause of deep dissatisfaction. Even when someone reaches a goal they once dreamed of, they may find that it does not bring the level of fulfillment they expected. They move on to the next milestone, always believing that true happiness lies just beyond the next achievement. This cycle can be exhausting, leaving them feeling empty despite their accomplishments. Relationships and social interactions can also play a role in maintaining the illusion. Many people feel pressure to appear happy in order to preserve their relationships or avoid burdening others with their problems. They fear that revealing their true emotions might push people away, so they continue to act as if everything is fine. The need to uphold this image can be especially strong in environments where there is an expectation to be cheerful, positive, or successful. Even when someone does express their struggles, they may do so in subtle ways that go unnoticed by those around them. A passing comment, a brief change in behavior, or an unspoken sadness in their eyes can all be indicators that something deeper is going on. But because people are so accustomed to believing in the illusion of happiness, they often fail to recognize these signs. They continue to assume that the person in front of them is happy simply because they appear to be. The reality is that happiness cannot be determined by external appearances alone. People are complex and their emotions are layered. What may look like confidence could be masking insecurity. What seems like joy could be a cover for pain. The assumption that someone else is truly happy based solely on what they present to the world is not only misleading, but also damaging, because it reinforces the idea that others have figured out something that you have not. It can make you question your own happiness, wondering why you do not feel the same level of joy that they appear to have. People are often unaware of the ways their own minds distort reality, creating illusions that make them believe others are happier, more successful, or more fulfilled than they actually are. This is the power of projection, the tendency to assume that others are experiencing a better version of life simply because we are viewing them through the lens of our own emotions, insecurities, and self-perceptions. The mind has a way of filling in the blanks, constructing stories about people based on limited information, and more often than not, these stories are far from the truth. When you feel dissatisfied with your own life, you are more likely to perceive others as being in a better position than you. If you are struggling with financial difficulties, you may assume that the person driving a luxury car is carefree and happy. If you are going through heartbreak, you might look at a couple walking hand in hand and believe that they have a perfect relationship, free of conflict or pain. If you feel uncertain about your future, you might admire someone else's success and believe that they have it all figured out. But what you fail to realize is that you are projecting your own emotions onto them. Your mind is creating an illusion where their happiness seems more real than it actually is. This tendency to assume that others are living happier lives is rooted in the way the human brain processes information. We rarely have access to the full details of another person's experiences, struggles, and emotions. Instead, we see fragments, select moments, public personas, or curated versions of reality. These fragments are then interpreted through the filter of our own feelings, desires, and insecurities. If you are feeling unfulfilled, you are more likely to assume that others have found the fulfillment that you lack. If you are feeling lonely, you are more likely to believe that others are surrounded by love and companionship. This is not because they are actually happier than you. It is because your mind is looking for comparisons to explain your own emotions. Social conditioning plays a significant role in reinforcing these perceptions. From a young age, people are taught to admire success, wealth, beauty, and social status as markers of happiness. When you see someone who embodies these qualities, your mind automatically assumes that they must be happy. But what is often overlooked is the fact that happiness is not a product of external circumstances alone. It is an internal state that fluctuates, regardless of material success or social validation. Many people who appear to have everything on the outside are still battling insecurities, anxiety, and emotional turmoil on the inside. They may be struggling with relationships, self-worth, or a sense of purpose. Issues that are not visible to the outside world. Another aspect of projection is the tendency to compare your private struggles to other people's public successes. You know every detail of your own failures, disappointments, and insecurities, but when you look at someone else, you only see what they choose to reveal. You are comparing the raw, unfiltered reality of your life to a polished and selected version of someone else's. This creates a distorted perception, making their life seem more fulfilling and effortless than it actually is. It is an unfair comparison because you are not seeing the full picture. Projection is not just limited to strangers or acquaintances. It also happens in close relationships. You might assume that a friend, co-worker, or family member is genuinely happy because they appear to be doing well in life. You might believe that they are emotionally strong because they never openly express their struggles. But people often hide their true emotions, even from those closest to them. They may be going through personal battles that they do not feel comfortable sharing. They may be smiling in public while feeling empty in private. The assumption that someone else is happy just because they seem to be is often a reflection of our own desire to believe that happiness is easier to achieve than it actually is. One of the strongest reinforcements of projection comes from social media, where people carefully curate their lives to appear perfect. The images, captions, and stories shared online are often designed to highlight moments of joy, success, and excitement, while the struggles, failures, and moments of doubt remain hidden. When you scroll through social media, your mind is bombarded with these selective portrayals, making it even easier to believe that others are living more fulfilling lives than you. But the reality is, social media is not a representation of real life. It is a controlled and edited version of it. The vacations, achievements, and celebrations you see online do not tell the full story of what is happening behind the scenes. Projection also plays a role in how we view relationships. Many people assume that couples who appear happy in public must have perfect relationships. They see the romantic gestures, the vacations, and the affectionate social media posts, and believe that these couples are free from conflict, misunderstandings, or emotional struggles. But in reality, every relationship has its challenges. Arguments, disappointments, and compromises are part of every love story, no matter how perfect it may seem from the outside. The belief that other people have flawless relationships often stems from personal insecurities. If you have experienced heartbreak or struggle with trust, you are more likely to believe that others have something you do not. The danger of projection is that it creates unnecessary suffering. When you assume that others are happier, more successful, or more fulfilled than you, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, envy, and self-doubt. You start to question your own progress, wondering why you are not experiencing the same level of happiness that others seem to have. But this belief is built on a false premise. No one is happy all the time. And no one has a perfect life. The happiness you perceive in others is often just a reflection of your own longing, your own desire to escape negative emotions by believing that someone else has found the secret to joy. People who seem to be thriving may in reality be struggling in ways you cannot see. The person who appears confident may be dealing with self-doubt. The person who is always surrounded by friends may feel deeply lonely. The person who seems to have everything together may be overwhelmed by stress, pressure, or expectations. The illusion of happiness is a powerful one, but it is just that, an illusion. The truth is far more complex, and the belief that others have figured out something that you have not is often a product of your own mind's projections. People assume that happiness is something that can be easily detected in others, as if it is a visible mark on someone's face, an undeniable glow that signals a life free from troubles. But happiness is not always loud. It is not always visible. Many people who seem to be content are actually carrying silent struggles that they dare not share with the world. Just because someone does not openly talk about their pain does not mean they are free from it. Some of the most seemingly confident, successful, and joyful individuals are also the ones who feel the most trapped, the most isolated in their own minds. Pain, sadness, and emotional burdens are not always expressed in ways that are obvious to those around us. In fact, the people who struggle the most are often the ones who have learned to hide it the best. They smile because it is expected. They laugh because it keeps people from asking questions. They keep themselves busy, surround themselves with people, and immerse themselves in work or social activities, not necessarily because they are happy, but because they do not want to be alone with their own thoughts. Society has conditioned people to believe that expressing emotional pain is a sign of weakness. From an early age, individuals are taught to suppress their true feelings, to act as if everything is fine, even when it is not. This pressure to appear strong creates a world where so many people suffer in silence, where struggles are hidden behind achievements, and where sadness is masked by a carefully crafted image of success. The reality is, many of the people who appear the happiest are the ones who have become experts at concealing their pain. They have learned to wear their smile as armor, to push through their days as if nothing is wrong, even when they are crumbling inside. The assumption that someone is truly happy just because they do not talk about their problems is a dangerous one. Many individuals feel like they cannot share their struggles because they fear being judged, misunderstood, or seen as weak. They might believe that others will not take their pain seriously because they have no reason to be unhappy. This is especially true for those who are perceived as successful. If someone has a good career, financial stability, or a seemingly strong support system, others may assume that their life is easy, that they have no reason to feel lost, overwhelmed, or depressed. But emotional pain does not discriminate. It does not care about status, wealth, or social standing. A person can have everything that others admire and still feel empty inside. There are people who wake up every day, go about their routines, meet deadlines, make people laugh, and seem perfectly fine, while inside they are battling thoughts that no one can hear. They may be carrying deep regrets, past traumas, or an overwhelming sense of loneliness that they cannot put into words. Some of them suffer in silence because they believe that no one would understand. Others hide their pain because they do not want to burden those around them. They convince themselves that it is better to keep going, to keep pretending, because that is what the world expects of them. It is easy to believe that people who do not speak about their problems simply do not have any. But silence does not mean the absence of struggle. Some individuals find it difficult to express what they are going through. They may not have the words to describe their pain, or they may have been taught that emotions are meant to be kept private. Others have tried to open up in the past and were met with indifference, dismissal, or judgment. So they learn to keep their pain to themselves. They carry their burdens quietly, appearing strong on the outside while suffering internally. This quiet suffering is more common than people realize. Every day, individuals walk past each other, exchanging greetings and pleasantries without ever knowing what the other person is truly going through. That coworker who always makes people laugh may be struggling with depression. That friend who always listens to others' problems may feel like they have no one to talk to about their own. That family member who appears to have everything under control may be constantly battling anxiety, self-doubt, or emotional exhaustion. But because they do not openly discuss their struggles, those around them assume that they are fine. People who remain silent about their pain often develop coping mechanisms that allow them to function despite their internal battles. Some throw themselves into their work, distracting themselves with deadlines and responsibilities to avoid confronting their emotions. Others immerse themselves in social activities, surrounding themselves with people so they do not have to be alone with their thoughts. Some even use humor as a shield, making jokes and entertaining others as a way to hide their true feelings. To the outside world, they seem happy, confident, and full of life. But beneath the surface, they are carrying a weight that no one can see. Silence can be one of the most deceptive signs of struggle. Many individuals do not want to appear vulnerable, so they suppress their emotions, convincing themselves that if they do not talk about their pain, it will eventually go away. But unspoken pain does not disappear, it lingers, building up over time until it becomes overwhelming. And because they do not allow themselves to express what they are going through, their suffering remains invisible to those around them. The world only sees what they choose to show. And because they have learned to hide their struggles so well, no one ever suspects that they might be hurting. Even when people do reach a breaking point, they often continue to suffer in silence because they believe no one will truly understand. They may convince themselves that others have bigger problems, that their pain is not significant enough to be acknowledged. They may feel guilty for feeling the way they do, especially if they have a life that others envy. This internal conflict creates a cycle where they suppress their emotions, put on a brave face, and continue to pretend that everything is fine, even when it is not. Just because someone does not speak about their pain does not mean it does not exist. Many people who seem to be doing well are struggling with emotions they do not know how to express. They may feel isolated in their suffering, believing that no one would understand or care. They continue to go through life fulfilling expectations, maintaining appearances, and keeping their pain hidden behind a mask of silence. Their struggles remain unseen not because they are not real, but because they have chosen to keep them locked away where no one can see. People often believe that happiness is determined by the things we can see: material wealth, a successful career, a seemingly perfect relationship, or an active social life. But external appearances rarely tell the whole story. There is an invisible weight that many people carry, a burden of expectations, responsibilities, and silent struggles that remain hidden beneath the surface. The illusion of happiness is easy to create, but true emotional fulfillment is much harder to achieve. What appears to be a joyful, thriving life from the outside can be an entirely different experience for the person living it. There is an unspoken pressure in society to appear successful and happy. From an early age, people are taught that they must present a polished version of themselves to the world, smiling in photos, achieving career milestones, displaying a picture-perfect relationship. These things become markers of happiness in the eyes of others. But behind closed doors, the reality may be very different. The person who posts pictures of luxurious vacations may feel deeply lonely. The couple that seems inseparable online may be struggling with unspoken tensions and unresolved conflicts. The successful entrepreneur who appears to have everything figured out may be battling crippling self-doubt and anxiety. The outside world sees the surface, but the inner world remains hidden. One of the greatest misconceptions about happiness is the belief that external achievements guarantee inner peace. A person may have money, fame, and success, but still feel empty inside. This is because true happiness does not come from what you own or what you accomplish. It comes from within. There are people who live in mansions but feel trapped in their own minds. There are individuals with high-paying jobs who dread waking up in the morning. There are celebrities who are adored by millions but feel deeply alone. The world only sees the wealth, the status, and the admiration, but it does not see the silent battles they fight daily. People who appear to be happy may be carrying a heavy emotional load that no one notices. Many individuals go through life fulfilling expectations, meeting deadlines, maintaining relationships, and keeping up appearances while struggling internally. They may have moments of joy, but those moments do not always translate to lasting fulfillment. The pressure to always appear happy can make it even harder for someone to express their real feelings. If everyone assumes they are thriving, they may feel like they have no right to admit that they are struggling. This creates a cycle where they continue to play the role of a happy, successful individual, even when they are suffering in silence. Happiness is not something that can be accurately measured by external factors alone. Someone have all the markers of success and still feel deeply unsatisfied. This is because happiness is not about having more, it is about feeling whole. A person who is constantly chasing the next achievement, the next financial goal, or the next relationship milestone may find temporary satisfaction, but once the excitement fades, they are left with the same internal emptiness. The belief that happiness comes from external success is one of the greatest illusions that people fall for. Many individuals spend their lives trying to convince the world that they are happy, even when they are not. They smile at social events, post carefully curated moments on social media, and tell others that they are doing well, all while battling unspoken fears and anxieties. They convince themselves that if they maintain this illusion long enough, they will eventually feel the happiness they pretend to have. But the truth is, real happiness cannot be faked. No matter how convincing the illusion, it does not change what a person feels when they are alone with their thoughts. Some of the most seemingly confident people are also the ones who feel the most lost. They have mastered the art of projecting happiness, success, and fulfillment while suppressing their deeper emotions. They may avoid quiet moments because silence forces them to confront their true feelings. They may surround themselves with distractions, social gatherings, work, entertainment, anything to avoid sitting alone with their own thoughts. The busier they stay, the less time they have to acknowledge their internal struggles. To the outside world, they appear to be thriving, but inside, they are simply running from themselves. The weight of unspoken struggles can become overwhelming, yet many people continue to carry it alone because they fear being misunderstood. They worry that if they admit to feeling unfulfilled, people will question them. How can you be unhappy when you have so much? This fear of judgment makes it even harder for them to seek help or open up about what they are going through. They continue to present an image of happiness because it is easier than explaining why they feel empty despite having everything they thought they wanted. This is why appearances can be deceiving. The person who seems to have it all together may be struggling just as much as someone who openly expresses their pain. The difference is their struggles remain unseen. The world praises them for their achievements, their confidence, and their success, but no one asks whether they feel truly fulfilled. They continue to chase the next goal, hoping that it will finally bring them the happiness they have been searching for. But true happiness does not come from reaching another milestone. It comes from understanding oneself, addressing inner wounds, and finding a sense of purpose beyond material success. People assume that happiness is something that can be achieved once a person reaches a certain level of success, but this belief only leads to more disappointment. When someone finally reaches the point they thought would bring them fulfillment, they often realize that the emptiness remains. This is because external accomplishments do not fill the void that comes from unresolved emotions, unmet needs, and a lack of genuine self-connection. No amount of wealth, fame, or recognition can replace true inner peace. The illusion of happiness is reinforced by the way people present themselves to the world. Social media, social interactions, and professional environments all encourage people to highlight their best moments while hiding their struggles. This creates a culture where everyone assumes that others are happier than they truly are. But the truth is, everyone has their own battles, their own moments of doubt, and their own emotional struggles that remain unseen. The difference is some people express it openly while others continue to live behind a carefully maintained illusion. Many individuals believe that if they keep pushing forward, if they keep chasing the next goal, they will eventually reach a point where happiness becomes effortless. But happiness is not a destination. It is an internal state of being that must be nurtured from within. It is not something that can be achieved through external success alone. It requires self-awareness, emotional healing, and a willingness to address the deeper aspects of one's own mind. Those who appear the happiest on the outside may not have discovered this truth yet. They may still be chasing an illusion, believing that the next accomplishment will finally bring them peace. Many people believe that time naturally heals all wounds, that if enough days, months, or years pass, the pain, resentment, and negative emotions they feel will simply fade away. But this is one of the biggest misconceptions that hold people back from true healing. Time does not heal wounds. It merely passes. Healing is an active process, not a passive one. The pain that remains buried inside does not disappear simply because days go by. Instead, it festers beneath the surface, affecting every aspect of life, relationships, decisions, self-perception, and even health. The longer pain is ignored, the deeper it embeds itself into the subconscious, shaping behaviors and thoughts in ways that often go unnoticed. People who seem happy and successful on the outside often carry wounds from past experiences that they have never fully confronted. They suppress their pain by keeping themselves busy, chasing achievements, or seeking validation from others. They believe that if they focus on external success, they can outrun the emotions they don't want to deal with. But the past does not simply disappear. It stays in the background, influencing their choices and reactions in ways they may not even realize. Unresolved pain manifests in different forms: self-doubt, fear of abandonment, anger, trust issues, or even a constant feeling of emptiness that no amount of external success can fill. When people avoid dealing with their past wounds, they often find themselves repeating the same cycles. They enter relationships that mirror past hurts, gravitate toward familiar but unhealthy patterns, or sabotage their own success because of deep-seated fears they have never confronted. This is why true healing requires more than just time. It requires awareness, effort, and a willingness to face the uncomfortable truths buried within. People assume they are fine because they have learned to function with their pain, but functioning is not the same as healing. One of the reasons people resist confronting their past is because they believe it will be too painful to revisit. They fear opening wounds that they have spent years trying to forget. But what they fail to realize is that those wounds are already affecting them every day. Ignoring them does not make them disappear. It only makes them more powerful in the background. Unhealed trauma dictates how people react to stress, how they perceive themselves, and how they interact with others. It influences self-worth, relationships, and even the ability to experience joy fully. Some people convince themselves that they have moved on because they no longer think about a painful experience consciously. But suppression is not healing. Just because something is not actively in the mind does not mean it has been resolved. The emotions connected to past wounds often emerge in unexpected ways. Sudden anger, unexplained anxiety, difficulty trusting others, or a deep sense of unworthiness. These are signs that something unresolved is still operating beneath the surface. Until those emotions are acknowledged and worked through, they continue to influence life in ways that are difficult to control. There is also a tendency to compare pain and convince oneself that it wasn't that bad. People downplay their own experiences, telling themselves that others have gone through worse, so they shouldn't still be affected. But healing is not about comparison. It is not about deciding whether an experience was bad enough to justify lingering pain. If something hurt, if something still lingers in the mind or emotions, then it matters. Ignoring it does not make it smaller. It only makes it harder to process in a healthy way. Many people live their entire lives without ever fully healing from the pain of their past. They build their identities around their wounds, believing that what happened to them defines who they are. They tell themselves stories like, I always get hurt, people always leave me, or I'll never be good enough. And these beliefs shape their actions and choices in ways they do not even recognize. But the truth is, past pain does not define a person. How they choose to deal with it does. The difference between someone who grows and someone who stays stuck is their willingness to confront what they have been avoiding. Healing requires more than just waiting for time to pass. It requires action. It requires allowing oneself to feel the emotions that were suppressed, understanding where they come from, and making a conscious effort to break the patterns created by past pain. This does not mean dwelling on the past or becoming consumed by it, but rather facing it with honesty and a desire to move forward in a healthier way. It means recognizing the ways in which unhealed wounds are still influencing thoughts, behaviors, and relationships, and taking steps to release that hold. A common mistake people make is thinking that healing means forgetting what happened. But healing is not about erasing the past. It is about changing the way it affects the present. It is about reaching a point where memories no longer trigger the same pain, where past experiences no longer dictate self-worth, and where emotional freedom replaces emotional baggage. It is about making peace with what was so that it no longer has power over what is. Many people seek external solutions for internal wounds. They think that if they find the right person, achieve the right level of success, or distract themselves enough, the pain will eventually fade. But healing is an inside job. No amount of external validation can heal internal wounds. The work must be done within. It requires honesty, self-reflection, and a commitment to breaking free from the cycles that have kept the pain alive. Some people hold on to their pain because it has become familiar. They fear who they will be without it, so they cling to it even when it continues to hurt them. They replay past experiences, hold on to resentment, and refuse to let go because they believe that doing so means excusing what happened. But letting go is not about excusing the past. It is about freeing oneself from its grip. It is about refusing to let an old wound dictate present happiness. The process of healing is not always comfortable. It requires facing things that have been avoided, feeling emotions that have been suppressed, and changing patterns that have become deeply ingrained. It is not an overnight process, and it does not happen simply by waiting for time to pass. It requires a decision, an active, conscious decision to stop carrying pain that no longer serves a purpose. Healing is not about pretending the past did not happen or acting as if pain never existed. It is about acknowledging it, processing it, and choosing to move forward in a way that no longer allows it to define the present. It is about recognizing that real happiness does not come from suppressing pain, but from resolving it. Until that work is done, no amount of time will make a difference. Pain has a way of shaping a person's identity, often without them even realizing it. When people go through hardships, heartbreak, or betrayal, they tend to internalize those experiences, allowing them to become part of their narrative. They don't just see what happened as an event, they see it as a reflection of who they are. Over time, these wounds become part of their belief system, influencing their decisions, emotions, and expectations from life. The problem is that when pain becomes part of one's identity, it is carried everywhere, like an invisible weight that influences every step forward. Instead of seeing themselves as capable, strong, and deserving of happiness, people begin to define themselves by their past struggles, reinforcing the very patterns that keep them stuck. There is a silent comfort in pain because it is familiar. The mind naturally clings to what it knows, even if it is harmful. People often fear change more than they fear suffering. This is why so many individuals remain trapped in cycles of negativity. They do not know who they would be without their pain. They have lived with certain emotional wounds for so long that the idea of healing feels like stepping into unknown territory. Some even feel guilty at the thought of letting go, as if moving on would invalidate what they went through. They do not realize that carrying pain does not honor the past. It only limits the future. When pain becomes part of one's identity, it affects how they interact with others. They may push people away before they can be hurt again, sabotage relationships out of fear, or settle for less than they deserve because they have come to expect disappointment. They may interpret neutral situations through the lens of their past wounds, assuming rejection where none exists, or expecting betrayal before it happens. They become trapped in a cycle where they unconsciously recreate their past pain, not because they want to suffer, but because their mind seeks what is familiar. This is how unhealed wounds dictate the course of a person's life without them even realizing it. Some people wear their pain like armor, believing that if they stay guarded, they will never be hurt again. They convince themselves that shutting people out is the best way to protect themselves. But in reality, they are not protecting themselves, they are imprisoning themselves. They mistake emotional numbness for strength, believing that refusing to feel is the same as overcoming pain. But avoidance is not healing. The pain is still there, operating in the background, influencing their choices and keeping them from experiencing real joy. It is common for people to use distractions as a way to avoid facing their pain. They throw themselves into work, relationships, or constant activity, hoping that if they stay busy enough, the pain will eventually fade. But distractions only provide temporary relief. The moment they are alone, the emotions resurface. No matter how much they try to suppress them, unresolved emotions demand to be acknowledged. Ignoring them does not make them go away. It only strengthens their hold. The only way to break free is to confront what has been avoided. Many people fear confronting their emotions because they believe that doing so will make them feel worse. They assume that if they allow themselves to feel, they will be overwhelmed, unable to handle the weight of their emotions. But the truth is, the pain is already there, affecting them every day. It influences their mood, their confidence, their relationships, and their decisions. Acknowledging it does not create suffering. It is the first step toward releasing it. The process of healing requires a shift in identity. People must stop seeing themselves as victims of their past and start recognizing their power to create a different future. They must separate who they are from what they have been through. The past may have shaped them, but it does not define them. True transformation begins when they stop identifying with their wounds and start seeing themselves as capable of healing, growing, and thriving. This shift does not happen overnight, but it begins the moment a person decides to no longer be controlled by what has already happened. Letting go of pain does not mean forgetting. It does not mean pretending that certain experiences did not happen. It means refusing to let those experiences dictate the present. It means releasing the emotional charge that keeps old wounds alive. It means choosing freedom over familiarity, even when the familiarity is painful. Too often, people believe that healing is something that happens to them over time, but healing is something that must be chosen. It requires a decision to stop reliving old pain, to stop reinforcing limiting beliefs, and to stop carrying what no longer serves them. There is power in rewriting one's narrative. People who break free from their past do so by changing the story they tell themselves. Instead of seeing themselves as someone who was betrayed, they see themselves as someone who has learned valuable lessons about trust. Instead of believing they were abandoned, they recognize that they were redirected towards something better. Instead of feeling like they were not good enough, they begin to understand that their worth was never determined by how others treated them. This shift in perspective is what allows true healing to take place. Some people hold on to pain because they believe it is proof of what they have endured. They use it as evidence of their struggles, as if letting go would somehow erase their story. But healing does not erase the past. It allows a person to move forward without being weighed down by it. Pain is not what makes a person strong. The ability to rise above it does. Strength is not found in holding on to suffering, but in choosing to live beyond it. Emotional freedom comes when a person realizes they are not their pain. They are not their past. They are not their mistakes, their failures, or the hurt they have experienced. They are more than what has happened to them. They are the choices they make moving forward, the beliefs they adopt, and the actions they take. True happiness does not come from avoiding pain or suppressing it. It comes from facing it, working through it, and emerging stronger on the other side. The mind will always try to return to what is familiar, even if it is painful. It takes conscious effort to break free from old patterns and create new ones. This is why healing is a continuous choice, not a one-time event. Every day, a person must choose to release what no longer serves them, to replace old thoughts with new ones, and to see themselves not as broken, but as whole. Healing does not mean the past disappears, but it does mean that it no longer controls the present.